On May 22nd of 1846, 5 newspaper editors got together in New York City and decided that they would create what became the Associated Press. This was not out of some higher goal, it was function. There was a war happening at the Mexican-American border, and they needed information about it. And at that point, the plan basically seemed to be that journalists would cover it and then send information back via Pony Express, and whoever got it first would get it. And it was this long journey back across the United States to get things to the newspapers. 2 years before, the first telegrams had been sent. Morse sent one that read, "What hath God wrought?" and received it back immediately that said, "Have you any news?" Right? And 2 years later, the editors are like, "All right, we've got telegram wires up. Let's get this going." Their system was that they paid journalists to cover the war. They paid horse riders to take that information from the journalists to the Alabama train station. They paid the Alabama train station to take the news up to the telegram offices and then transport via telegram. And then it would hit all of the New York City papers that were part of this collective at the same time. Newspapers up until then had been mostly partisan, and they still were, right? The information coming from the Associated Press was the information. The editorial pages and the twist and the spin was still coming from the newspapers. So remember yesterday we talked about in Lawrence, Kansas, they threw away the printing presses of the kind of abolitionist newspaper. And the Associated Press was very much about the actual facts. The Associated Press was a huge part of American journalism and ultimately kind of world journalism, going from a competition to who could get the facts and therefore the narrative as quickly as possible, to an attempt that everyone can have the facts and the narrative is being created in the editorial pages, but not in the actual information. The information is going to get out there. The term newsroom comes from port cities having rooms full of newspapers and magazines and documents, and even these big journals that were blank that people could write their own news in. And people would pay to get into this room with the news because you couldn't possibly have the same news getting out to everywhere at the same time. And the telegram and then the creation of the Associated Press is what allowed for that to switch from that to everybody's getting something like the basic facts as quickly as possible.